Good morning and welcome to our second online Sunday Blessings. Some announcements to start with. We had a good attendance at the prayer meeting on Friday morning via Zoom. This will be a weekly occurrence now. I invite you to look at the weekly prayer news where you will receive information there with regard to joining in that prayer meeting, but also some prayers that you will be able to share with us. It's also good to see how others are staying in touch, either by phone or using other methods. The songsters had a bit of fun, I understand, on Thursday evening via WhatsApp, and the Connect Youth group met via Zoom on Friday night, and our own youth and children. And 50 plus and community choir and toddlers all have their own ways of keeping in touch. We'll have more news next week on reflections planned for Holy Week in next Sunday's announcements. Please remember those who are in need of our prayers at this time. You will have received your weekly prayer news, so I don't need to mention names on this medium. Please contact us though if you are not getting these communications. We are posting out to those not on email. Please also get in touch if you need any help or support. We've had the hall telephone number transferred to my mobile, so we are available. Jill will also be back at work on Monday, probably working from home and able to take calls too. So there should always be someone you can talk to if you need at any time. God bless you, and now over to Alison.
Well, it seems that my Bible text was chosen for me today. In the Salvation Army, today is designated International Day of Prayer for Children, and the theme is the power of one. And then for those of you who follow Bromley's Facebook group, you'll see that one of our members posted a link to a song called The 5 Loaves and 2 Fishes by Corinne May. You may want to look it up and listen to it again. It tells the story beautifully of the one little boy who came to Jesus with his offering of lunch to feed the multitudes. Take a moment to read the story in Matthew's Gospel, chapter 14, verses 13 to 21. Here's the gist of it. More than 5,000 people were gathered to hear Jesus, and as evening approached and people began to grow hungry, the disciples urged Jesus to send the people away to get their food. It didn't even cross their minds that Jesus might just be able to meet their needs. And yet here was the same God who had poured manna from heaven for millions in the wilderness to eat. Here he was, being encouraged to send people off to find their own food. And the people could have found food because there were villagers nearby. But he didn't, because he wanted them to know, once again, that he was their provider, the God of miracles. Sometimes I think we tend to see our need as either too large to ask God to handle, or too small for him to be concerned with. We forget, and like the disciples, we must be reminded that God is our provider. He is the provider who clothes the lilies in the field and who sustained an entire generation with water and food in a barren wilderness. You think something is too small for God to address? He's the God of the 5 loaves and 2 fish. You think something is too large, like this crisis we find ourselves in today? He is the creator and the sustainer of all that is. And just as we underestimate God's ability to provide our need, we also underestimate the role he assigns us. We pray for our world, our nation, our families, especially at this time. It's the best thing we can do. Prayer is always the best thing that we can do for somebody. We pray that the needy might be fed, or that our neighbours might come to know God. But sometimes we are blind to our role in it. Is Jesus waiting for us, perhaps, to offer our meagre loaves and fish? In spite of his ability to act alone, he does say to the disciples in verse 16, "You give them something to eat." The great works of God that come about through our faith usually don't come without an initial offering from us. The offering may be pitifully small, all the better to display God's power, but it must be given. Every miraculous work begins with a stepping out in trust, like the disciples did when they started to hand out the bread and fish, little by little. That's where miracles begin. Our abilities are underwhelming to meet the overwhelming needs of this world. But with Jesus, they are powerfully sufficient. Do we want him to work through us? We must give him what we have. Some of you have rang me this week or emailed me desperate to help, to do something, anything. What I'm finding is that it's often the small things that God works wonders. Do something, a phone call, a text, put a note through a neighbour's door to offer to help God, to be there for them if they need it. The children can join in too, maybe draw a picture, put it through a neighbour's door, or put a rainbow in your window, a symbol of God's everlasting love. D.L. Moody once said, "We may easily be too big for God to use, but never too small." Do we want him to work through us? He uses ordinary people the same as he ever did, but we must give him what we have. And the power of God is the same as it ever was, and his provision for us is the same as it ever was. What is your need today? Whatever it is God's concern. He is the God of compassion. Verse 14 says, "When Jesus saw them, he had compassion on them." And he is the God of abundance. Verse 20 says, "They ate and were satisfied." And best of all, he is our Father. I've asked Ian to play the tune associated with the children's chorus. Simple words, but they remind us of his love and the care of this faithful provider. This faithful one who we heard about in the Bible reading just now. Some of our children might be anxious too. This is a great song to teach them or to sing over them as they go to sleep. Here are the words. "Wonderful Lord, wonderful God, you are my shield, my protector. I can lie down, go off to sleep, knowing that you're watching over me. Wonderful Lord, wonderful God, help me to trust you forever. I need not fear, because you are near. I can lie down and sleep in peace." Shall we pray? Father, provider God, we praise you for your almighty power that can feed multitudes from a small offering. Unshakable God, you are our ever-present help in times of trouble. And just now we lay down the situations that scare us, the problems that overwhelm us, and the expectations that pressure us. Amidst all the isolation, grief and fear caused by this crisis, renew in us your peace, restore to us your perspective, and reveal to each one of us your presence. Amen.